Good evening. It's time for another edition of Facing the Issues. The Caribbean Examinations Council, the CXC, was established in 1972 by an agreement among 15 English-speaking participating governments. Its mandate at the time was to conduct such examinations as it may think appropriate, award certificates and diplomas on the results of any such examinations so conducted. Anguilla has benefited from a number of programs and services of the Caribbean Examinations Council since its joined, and in fact in 2012 Anguilla hosted the council meeting, and the last deputy chair of CXC was the permanent secretary for education, Chanel Petit-Barrett. In addition, a number of officials have visited Anguilla from time to time, and on this occasion we're happy to have with us Mr. Glenroy Cumberbatch, the Registrar, and Cleveland Sam, Assistant Registrar of Public Information and Customer Services. They have been in Anguilla as part of a CXC stakeholder engagement activities from the 8th to the 9th of February. We use first names on this program. My name is Wycliffe. Cleveland is on my far right, and Glenroy is here close to me. Gentlemen, welcome to Facing the Issues.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Glenroy, I start with you, a registrar of the CXC. When did you assume that position?
I was appointed in December 2014 as the registrar for CXC.
And as registrar, your primary responsibilities are?
Well, I guess my main responsibility is to keep CXC running and to ensure that we provide quality services to our stakeholders throughout the Caribbean.
2014, going into 2 years now, what would you say have been some of the challenges you've faced on that since then, since your appointment?
Well, the major challenge really is the changes that we have been going through. Prior to 2012, we were doing mainly face-to-face examinations. We also had marking being done face-to-face, so we would move about 4,500 markers across the region in order to participate in our marking exercise. That has changed significantly to 2014, 15, 16. In January now, we don't remove any person. We use any marking process where people can mark from the comforts of their own homes.
And one of the benefits to that was the fact that you save some money.
We save some money, but not necessarily in that point of view, because what we were able to do is to ensure that the markers themselves benefited more from the savings or the money that would have come from it. And the technology that we invest in would give us better quality for our marking to ensure that students who get a particular grade get a consistent grade every time it was marked.
Anguilla has participated in this marking. A number of teachers from the Albina Lake Arch Comprehensive School have traveled to a number of the islands and assisted with the marking. Would you say it has worked?
The e-marking?
Yes.
E-marking has worked reasonably well so far. There's still some issues that we have to work out and to ensure that greater numbers of people have access. One of the good things that we would have known from the face-to-face would we have known the dependent markers. We have known those who come every year, those who mark repeatedly to high quality. Now we move to any marking system where you have to use technology. Some of the skill sets change slightly, and those people who may have been very good at face-to-face may not have the same quality approach to the online. So we have to go through a process to identify those key markers that we have and those online markers who can mark both quickly and with high quality. And then that would form the core of future markers for CXC.
Sam, Cleveland Sam is the Assistant Registrar. It's a long title, Public Information and Customer Services. That's almost the whole of CXC. Tell us about it. Welcome back to Anguilla.
Thanks, Wycliffe. My pleasure.
Well, and you've been in that position since
2002.
And what does it entail?
Well, it entails doing things like this, coming on your television show. But basically, my job really, the heart of it now is what we call stakeholder engagement and stakeholder management, and ensuring that the information that our stakeholders need is delivered to them. Ensuring as well that when we are having initiatives such as e-marking and e-testing and any other new initiatives that we are carrying out, that we consult with stakeholders to see how it affects them, to hear from them how we can improve the services and the processes that we have currently and how we could improve those in the future.
That's primarily the purpose of your visit here, conducting stakeholder
Exactly.
engagement activities in Anguilla. Tell us about some of the persons you've met and what has been happening.
Well, every year since about 2012, CXC has been focusing specifically on stakeholder engagement and management. And each year what we do is we determine a specific set of stakeholders that we would focus on in the particular year. So this year, for example, the third form students are one of our main targets. The parents of third form students are one of our main targets. Private institutions are also one of our main targets. But we always want to speak to teachers. They carry out a lot of the work that we do. We always want to speak to Ministry of Education officials and to keep them up to date and to get their feedback. So, as well as the private sector. So we have been meeting with some of those folks. Yesterday we met with the Minister of Education and his team, the permanent secretary, the planner, the education planner. We also met with the technical team from the Ministry of Education. Again, curriculum officers, ministry education officers. Some of them are also our resource persons who sit on panels, who sit in examining committees. We met with them yesterday as well. And today we met with 2 sets of third form students, very interesting interactions with them. And our aim here really is to assist them in terms of their subject selection and ensuring that they do so intelligently when they select the subjects that they are going to be taken for CSEC in fourth form. And so we did a presentation with them, went through a couple of scenarios and had them do a bit of group work as well. So that was quite interesting.
You met with these students and of course with parents. What were some of the concerns of the students and the parents?
Well, the students didn't really have concerns per se, except one student wanted to know why we do not offer automotive mechanic. But we informed him that he can do that as a Caribbean vocational qualification, the CVQ, which CXC issues in the school system. The parents, we had a very interactive meeting with parents this afternoon at the auditorium. They, of course, are concerned about things such as recognition of the CXC qualifications, both CSEC and CAPE, about the issuing of certificates for CCSLC program. Registrar, you could probably help me here as well. But, I mean, we had a really good interaction with them, and some of what they have said we have decided to take back and look at and review and so on.
One of the issues was the CCSLC and why students in Anguilla should do it, especially
the Caribbean certificate of
secondary
level certificate.
Competency.
Yeah. And so the question is, if our students are going to go on to do CSEC, why should we pay to do CCSLC? And we were able to point out 3 good reasons why we believe that it is important that they do it. One is that the UK NARIC, this is a recognition firm that looks at programs and determine their comparability or compatibility across the regions. And they compared it with a region in Australia, region in Canada, region in USA, and the UK. And they found that it was comparable to their programs, but it has some things that they have seen that are better than in those particular programs, and that is the communication, problem solving, and critical thinking elements of it were better in those programs. We also pointed to them that it creates a foundation for the students to go on to do CSEC subjects and to go on to do CVQ programs. And hence it was critical that they get that foundation if they're going to improve their performance overall. And thirdly, we pointed to them that students on average do maybe 3 CSEC. Some do quite a few, some do 1, some do nothing, but on average they do 3 CSEC. If you go through secondary school from Form 1 straight to Form 5 and you end up doing 2 CSEC, you only have a certificate showing competence in those 2 areas, and you have no record of your competence in any other area. And most universities in the USA, in particular, want to find out what else have you done in order to make a good comparison or good determination of where you would fit into their system. So we felt that it was very important for them to understand that. The other issue was related to they have not received certificates, and we went through with them what they need to do in order to send the information to us, and as soon as we get that information, we will go ahead and issue the certificates for those who qualify for those
That would be the
certificates.
role perhaps of the Ministry and Department of Education to ensure that students who have passed
Who
Qualified.
met the requirements,
qualified.
yeah.
You have a number of areas, the Caribbean Examination Council, number of examinations. As I look at the website, you're talking about CPEA,
Yes.
talking about CCLLC, CVQ, CSEC, CAPE, CXC. Now, the familiar ones to me will be CAPE and CCSLC,
CSEC,
you know,
yeah.
and CSEC. When I look at your report, you just had a meeting, I think it was December last year?
December,
Belize,
Belize,
In Grenada, the
In Belize, yeah.
Belize, the 47th council meeting, as I alluded to earlier in 2012, Anguilla hosted such a gathering, and what I see coming out of your report was that the report on administration of examinations that was given by Noel Stinnett, the senior registrar, he explained that there was an increase in entries for the Caribbean Advanced Proficiency Examination CAPE.
Yes.
A lot of figures. Candidates increased from 29,378 in 2014 to 30,545 in 2015, while subject entries moved from 114 plus thousand to 120. What would you say attributed to that increase?
Well, I think generally it is the population, but more so the new subjects that we have introduced. We have introduced new generation subjects, entrepreneurship, digital media, agricultural science. We have introduced a number of new subjects, and it gives a greater latitude for persons to write or CAPE subjects. Before, they were very much related to law, to history, to geography, for those areas. We have identified that the economies of the region are all focusing on service economies. We are trying to ensure that students who leave school to go into the world of work to improve their chances of employment or creating their own employment have skills that they're certified for in tourism, in entrepreneurship, in digital media, in all those interesting areas that they can create employment for themselves.
And has it been easy, though, to produce a syllabus in that regard? Because you were so used to over the years to a certain number of subjects, and now you're switching to, as it were, trying to get in tune with the times.
Well,
has it been difficult?
Yeah, it was difficult in the sense. First of all, we had to convince people that it is worth doing. Because people think about things like psychology, sociology, and this and that and so on. And the question is, what do you do with it afterwards? You go on to university to become a professional in the area. But quite a few people who do CAPE do not necessarily go on to university. They go into the world of work. How do we create an opportunity for them? Tourism is our major service or drive our economy in the region. And you can benefit from tourism in a number of ways. If people only come to your country, stay in the hotels and leave, you don't benefit as much. If people come to your country and you produce good agricultural products that generate from your country, then the wealth or the money is being passed through right down the line and not just to hotels. If people come to your country and they're met with entertainment, local entertainment in terms of performing arts, persons who are certified as for music or film or dance or theater, and they create these kind of activities that they can then invite tourists to on Friday night, Saturdays or whatever. Right, then they're moving through and passing it on. So these are the kind of things that we are focusing on to encourage people. And entrepreneurship outside of human and social biology had the largest numbers of entries for the first sitting. There are quite a lot of entrepreneurs, and our Examiner magazine for October features some of those entrepreneurs, those young entrepreneurs in the region, to try to inspire some more students to become like those young entrepreneurs.
Every time, Cleveland, that a student takes an examination, the person's name is not on the paper. There's a code,
a number, registration number.
Say, for instance, if I was to do English and history in 2015 and fail with the number that I have, is the same number given to me the next year?
Well, it's quite interesting that you asked that question today, because we just introduced something called a common identifier, which will follow you throughout your lifetime, especially with the CPEA now, where the students are doing CPEA in primary school. From now on, when they register for CPEA, they would carry that same registration number throughout their entire CXC life, from CPEA, CCSLC, if they do CVQ, CSEC, and right up to CAPE. As you said, in the past, every sit-in you had a different registration number. If you sat at a different center, even in the same year, you also had a different registration number. But with the common identifier, we are going to rectify that.
The CPEA is, as you said, for students in the primary schools.
Primary schools.
It's kind of new to Anguilla.
Yes.
Can you?
Yes, so actually Anguilla has been one of the trailblazers with the CPEA. Anguilla and Grenada first took it in 2012. And I think the reports we have received from Anguilla have been excellent. And actually, I think Anguilla has helped some of the other countries to convince some of the other countries to come on board. In 2012, when we hosted the council meeting here, the Anguillan students put on a display of their work at the Cuisinart Hotel where the meeting was held. And we also had some of the students, their parents, and some of the teachers spoke to the other delegates from the other Caribbean countries about their experience. And I think that also helped to convince them that this is a solid program. So we now have on board St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Lucia.
St. Lucia's coming on next.
We have done pilots in Dominica. We have done pilots in Jamaica as well, with a few schools in Jamaica. So it is growing, but you would also recognize, and we at CXC are very realistic. Anytime we have a new program on board, it takes time for everybody to come on board. I mean, 1979 when we offered CSEC, 2 or 3 or 5 countries took the examination. Now everybody does CSEC. When we offered CAPE in 1998, again, we only had probably, 30,000 subject entries because a few countries came on board. But we believe that with the success that the other countries have seen with the CPEA, in St. Vincent it has thrown up some very interesting results where the traditionally top primary schools are not performing as well at the CPEA as some schools that you never heard of before, but they're the schools who are doing very well at the CPEA now because of the methodology that we're using for the CPEA. So the CPEA is an excellent program, and as I said, your schools have been doing very well at it and would continue to be some of the trailblazers with that.
You mentioned Anguilla, of course, benefiting from the CPEA. I have a daughter, 11, who is in fact doing it now, but she's going to secondary school in September. But you find that it's always good to start early with the students. What would you say are some of the immediate benefits, though?
To the students?
To the students, yeah.
Right. I had the opportunity in 2012 to visit Anguilla with one of my colleagues and to visit a couple of the schools to see the actual students present some of their projects. And one of the immediate benefits is that the students become much more articulate. I witnessed students at the Valley Primary School presenting their book reports. Some presented them just as you come up in front of the class and you talk. Some presented them as poems. So these are books that the students are reading from home, and they prepare a book report on that. So that's one. They become much more articulate. Secondly, the students begin to learn research skills very early because they have to do these projects. They begin to learn group dynamics as well because a lot of their work have to be done in groups. So we visited one of the schools on the western end of the island, and the student had come up with this project, a geography project, where they were looking at the effects of hurricanes on the beaches on the western, because that's where a lot of your hotels and so on are. So they learn the group dynamics, they learn to work in groups. So there are so many benefits in terms of what accrue to the students from the CPEA, and they learn those skills very early.
And they also learn a lot of teamwork. They learn to work together. Their intrapersonal and interpersonal skills are developed. They learn that each one has skills that the other one may not have. So instead of all of us cannot spell at the same level, we may not be able to spell at the same level, but I can do something that you can do. And together, when we work together, we bring our strengths, and hence we feel as though we are compatible, we are interdependent, and we move forward as a team. And I think that is one of the most wonderful things. They also use their technological skills.
Yeah.
They use their
You've got a lot
skills
of that
into
now.
yeah. So they utilize a lot more things in the CPEA than they would if they just did some chalk and talk exercises. And they build knowledge, and I think that is the most important thing. Knowledge is gained through interaction, and this program allows for a lot of interaction and a lot of feedback from teacher to student, a lot of feedback. And feedback, once you get that feedback, your performance improves. Once your parents are involved, that performance improves. And once you own your own learning, which they form their own products and so on, your performance will improve.
And makes it easier for the student when he or she reaches the secondary school.
Exactly.
This is Facing the Issues. Our guests this evening are Mr. Glenroy Cumberbatch, who is the Registrar, and Mr. Cleveland Sam, the Assistant Registrar Public Information and Customer Services, associated with the Caribbean Examinations Council based in Barbados. And we'll be back in a moment.
I'm tired of all the confusion, a different way to call everyone, so I say no way, just one flat red please. That's the only resolution for me. That is why we have line one red.
Anytime, any network.
Line talk so great. Tell everyone about line one red.
All across the nation.
We talking with line one red.
Call family, call friends, call everyone. No matter their phone, all across the island.
Upgrade to the Simple Life. One handset, one rate, one network. Lime. Talk so great.
Line one red.
All across the nation.
We talking with line one red. Line one red.
This is the Aedes aegypti mosquito that spreads the Zika, chikungunya, and dengue viruses. Protect yourself from the bite of this mosquito. A message from the Ministry of Health.
A lot of people think that fast bikes are cool, and the girls sure like the guys who ride them. But like so many things about life, you gotta be careful. Having sex without a condom is like riding a bike without a helmet. It's just plain dumb. It's okay to have fun as long as you're smart about it. My name is Daniel the Lion Fortress, and I'm different, and I'm making a difference.
Live up. Love, protect, respect.
The amount of salt you'll find in many prepared foods will shock you. Too much salt leads to high blood pressure, which in turn can cause heart attack and stroke. Canned meats, soups, chips, sauces, seasonings, all can have loads of salt. Always check the labels on products you buy. Avoid any item with more than 10% of the recommended daily amount. Control your blood pressure by lowering your salt intake. Salt, the silent killer. Cut down on salt.
This is Facing the Issues. Our guests this evening are Glenroy Cumberbatch, who's Registrar of the Caribbean Examinations Council, and with him, Cleveland Sam, the Assistant Registrar of Public Information and Customer Services. They are in Anguilla as part of a stakeholder engagement, a regional stakeholder engagement initiative that is taking place throughout all the member territories of the Caribbean Examinations Council. Let's look, gentlemen, a little bit more at some of the reports which came out of your 47th Council CXC meeting. We mentioned earlier that in the case of Cape, there was an increase in a number of areas, but for the CSEC now, the Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate, there was a decline in both candidate and subject entries.
Yes, that has been happening for the last 2 or 3 years. And we therefore decided to look deeper into it to see what can be the possible causes. The first thing we found is that the population is declining. In Jamaica, the population is declining, in Barbados is declining, in St. Lucia, and quite a number of countries, that age cohort is declining.
In fact, the report speaks about a decline of 7%.
Yeah, in terms of the population. The other thing is that through the economic situation that the Caribbean was going through, there are some persons who they cannot afford to pay for all of these subjects. And in some instances, there were new things introduced in some countries, a kind of qualification exam, and if you don't pass the qualification exam, then you're not entered to write the subject. So all of those factors impacted on the fewer numbers of people writing the exam. But what is critical is that of the cohort that should be writing the exam, only about 23% of them actually write the exam. And this year we had over 133,000 people who wrote the exam, some in school, some out of school. And out of that 134 roughly thousand persons who wrote the exam, 33,000 of them got no passes whatsoever in any subject in the exam, which is a big number, which is about 25% of the overall cohort. And I think that is what we need to be more concerned about. The other concern we need to look at is the number of them who actually pass 5 subjects, and 5 subjects are required for onward movement into university or into the world of work. Most jobs advertise
this might have
for
been
that.
5 out of 8 or 9.
Yeah, 5 out of 8 of 9, 5 out of 10 in some instances. But the amount who do that was about 30-something thousand also. Not a lot of persons actually got 5 subjects in one sitting. So I think it is a concern from the point of view we are not maximizing. Remember we spoke earlier about the industries that we're focusing on, and those industries are service industries. Service industries required a high skill or a strong knowledge base. And if we don't have the persons coming through secondary school who can go on to be highly skilled or to find employment in the knowledge industries, then what are we doing? Yeah. Because the routine skills jobs are being taken up otherwise. Yeah. It is those non-routine skill jobs that are available to us and which we need to be better prepared for.
In my day, coming up when we were going to primary school and before we went to secondary school, we had to sit what was called a common entrance examination. If we didn't pass that, we go home. The teacher might be nice to you and say, you go to secondary school, you fail down here, you're going to fail up there too. Now, would you say, has CXC embraced that? I mean, any other regional islands, all the regional islands have stopped doing it?
Not really, I don't know of they may not have, they may not do the screening test in that you either pass and you move on. What is, you still write the exam, but the results depend sometimes on where you go to school, except for places like St. Kitts where you go to school, the primary school closest to you. But some other countries you still have choices and you make your choice depending the choice of the school, the score that you get, the capacity of the school, and those factors are taken into consideration, and then you're placed in schools. But all the students, for the most part, are placed. But it is also important to see how students perform at primary, because some literacy rates are determined by the percentage of people throughputing from primary to secondary. If you have a fall off in that, then you look as though your education system is not functioning at the optimum.
How important though, or how much input does CXC have with the various territories in terms of the syllabus that they have from primary to secondary?
The primary school syllabuses are all designed and determined by the countries themselves, and we utilize them in pulling out the literacies that are required to test. The lower secondary is the CCSLC curriculum, which was formed out of the regional curriculum at first, second, and third form. We look at all the curriculum that are offered across the region. We identify the commonalities and so on, and we develop a CCSLC curriculum that matches the English, the maths, etc. from those particular ones. For the CSEC syllabuses, those are developed differently. We have panels of people who develop them, including experts in the area, people from the university or the higher level where they will go to. Teachers also sit on those panels. So we have a very thorough review of what is required to form, first of all, the knowledge domain. Once we determine what the knowledge domain of the subject is, then we look at the specific objectives and the teaching methodologies and the kind of ways we would assess them. And that is sometimes a 2-year process. We're sending it out to teachers, getting feedback from teachers, sending it out to experts, getting feedback from experts, sending it to universities. And if the person came to you with this, how would they fit into your program? And just find these are the prerequisites that would be needed, etc. So we really do a thorough approach to the syllabuses. And after the first 3 years of putting those syllabuses into exam, We look at the results, we look to see how it is performing, and if needs be, we do a review of it at that stage. If not, we will just continue the program. Or if something drastically changed in the area, like for accounting, when we move from the British system of accounting to the American system, or if we move from America to British, then we will review the accounting to make sure that it is compatible with what is practiced within the countries.
Cleveland, let us look at the Caribbean Certificate of Secondary Level certificates, CCSLC. There was an increase in candidate entries, but a decline in the subject areas in that regard.
Yeah, so as you know, you can have that is quite normal. You can have an increase in the number of candidates, but they're writing less subjects. So for example, if you have a student this year who is taking 1 or 2 CCSLC courses, whereas last year most students may have taken 2 or 3 or 4 courses, that is how that can happen. Overall, though, as we continue to work with countries on the CCSLC, we expect that the CCSLC numbers will increase as time goes by. When the CCSLC first started, we had huge numbers from particular territories. Some of those territories have sort of cut back in terms of how the students pay for the CCSLC, and now the students are paying themselves. But as we continue the promotion and people gather in terms of what is the value of CCSLC, we anticipate that the CCSLC numbers will improve. The registrar mentioned the fact that there was a review of the CCSLC by Professor Hazel Simmons McDonald. Again, Ministries of Education are now going through those recommendations from the committee, and we expect with the feedback from Ministries of Education that a discussion will ensue at some point in terms of how the region moves forward with CCSLC. Because we at CXC are convinced that CCSLC is a foundation program that all secondary school students should do, and we are convinced further that if all students do the CCSLC program, that we will see much better results at CSEC and at CAPE.
Your review of the CCSLC, which was commissioned by the Council in 2014, looked at a number of areas and a number of challenges, including assessment, promotion, sensitization, administrative issues. There, in fact, were 29 recommendations. I don't expect you all to remember all the 29 recommendations, but what were some of the pressing ones, 3 or 4 of the pressing ones, and since then, have you been able to address them?
Well, as I said, we haven't addressed, and I'll let the registrar speak more about this, we haven't addressed all the recommendations as yet. The first thing that we did was to submit the report to Council at the December meeting that you're referring to. Following that meeting, Council agreed that the recommendation should be accepted, so that was the second step. Then CXC have forwarded all of the recommendations to the respective participating territories to get feedback from the territories in terms of how they feel about the recommendations and how we should proceed. When those recommendations and feedback are received from the territories, we will move forward. But we also, one of the strong recommendations was for a refocus and to restart the promotion and advertising of CCSLC. But CXC is of the view that we first need to have some consensus with the ministries and the governments in terms of what the focus of CCSLC should be. When that is completed, then I think we can move forward with the promotion.
Two quick ones would be, one, the workload of teachers. Teachers were saying that because of CCSLC, they have this extra workload. Remember we spoke earlier about feedback. And in CCSLC, there are 5 modules for every program. So the language arts, there will be 5 modules. The maths will be 5 modules. And at each stage, the teacher is to take the students through those modules and give them pertinent, regular, quality feedback. Give them a chance to do it again. And once they do it again, then you give them feedback again until they get to the level that we can say they're competent to move on. That is not the normal way that the average teacher operates. The average teacher would do a particular subject, you get X in it or Y, we move on to the next and we move on and so on. But the CCSLC requires you to develop the competence before you move on to the other stage, and it can take several tries in some instances. What we look at to see whether we can, the amount of work that they're mentioning, how we can deal with that. How can we have people work in groups, or we can have different mechanisms used to do that. There's also, because the name was tainted in a few of the countries where people felt that it had no value to them, having now seen the value, one of the recommendations was made to do a name change. No longer call it CCSLC, but call it something else. And that recommendation also is going to the countries for them to determine whether they should change the name or keep it going. But generally, and one country in particular was looking to see whether they can use it now for a diagnostic examination to identify those things that need changing and adjusting just before you go into your CSEC program, so that they can address those during the 4th year and the 5th year.
Some years ago, the Caribbean Examinations Council was kind of sent to a low when we had the examination results and children copying exams. I don't know if those are the correct words to use in some of the islands. What lessons were learned from that?
I don't know what lesson was learned. No, it was soon after I came. I joined CXC in 2007,
It was 2008.
and that occurred in 2008.
And it was in one island, Wilcliffe.
We had to clarify the situation.
Yeah, I don't know. It just happened. Since then, we have tightened our security. All of the areas where our papers are stored must have a camera, and the camera must be on 24 hours. The way the papers are distributed in those countries now are treated as though they're cash. They're dealt with through G4S or whoever it is would take the scripts to the particular centers and so on. So we have greater control over that system, but it is still a tricky system because sometimes depending on the size of the country, in smaller countries, you can come to the ministry, collect the papers on mornings, take them to the centers, bring them back in the evening. Bigger countries, and some countries where you have to travel by road, then travel by sea, then travel by horseback, the papers have to leave earlier. But you depend a lot on the integrity of the people, and we trust our systems that once something occurs, we can work it out. Once we find where this thing is happening, once we see any unusual activity, we will take the action to see.
Yeah, sorry, an important lesson as well from that, to add to what the registrar said, was that I think as a region, educational region, we also learned that we at CXC have some very dependable resource persons. We were able to work with the government in question at the time, as long as they provided the resources, to develop substitute papers for those subjects that were compromised, so that students who were applying to universities for that year to enter universities were not adversely affected. So I think that incident helped to show us the resilience of Caribbean Examinations Council and the type of resource persons that we have who are part of the CXC resource network.
This is Facing the Issues. Our guests this evening are representatives from the Caribbean Examinations Council, the CXC, based in Barbados. Glenroy Cumberbatch, who is the Registrar, and Cleveland Sam, who is the Assistant Registrar of Public Information and Customer Services. When we come back from the break, we're going to look at the whole question of, we've been talking a lot, good folks have been talking a lot about syllabus development. We want to talk a little bit more about that and what it really means to the future of the Caribbean Examinations Council. We'll be back in a moment.
So, I'm meeting Rico later. Gotta check in with the girls, but first, let me check my usage on the MyLime app. Now, what should I wear? Hashtag sexy. He's here.
This is the Aedes aegypti mosquito that spreads the Zika, chikungunya, and dengue viruses. Protect yourself from the bite of this mosquito. A message from the Ministry of Health.
A lot of people think that fast bikes are cool, and the girls sure like the guys who ride them. But like so many things about life, you've got to be careful. Having sex without a condom is like riding a bike without a helmet. It's just plain dumb. It's okay to have fun as long as you're smart about it. My name is Daniel the Lion Fortress, and I'm different, and I'm making a difference.
Live up. Love, protect, respect.
I'm tired of all the confusion, a different way to call everyone, so I say, no way, just one flat red please. That's the only resolution for me. That is why we have line one red.
Anytime, any network.
Line talk so great. Tell everyone about line one red.
All across the nation.
We talking with line one red.
Call family, call friends, call everyone. No matter their phone, all across the island.
Upgrade to the simple life. One handset, one rate, one network. Lime. Talk so great.
Line one red.
All across the nation.
We talking with line one red. Line one red.
This is the Aedes aegypti mosquito that spreads the Zika, chikungunya, and dengue viruses. Search for its breeding sites and destroy them. A message from the Ministry of Health.
Not at a time.
20% of our Caribbean teenagers get pregnant before age 19, interrupting their education and reducing their chances of earning a decent living.
I wish somebody did talk to me.
Parents and guardians, talk to your child about sex and help to prevent adolescent pregnancy.
Welcome back to Facing the Issues. This evening we are talking a bit about the Caribbean Examinations Council, the CXC, which was established in 1972. It's based in Barbados. Anguilla is a member of the Caribbean Examination Council and has benefited quite a bit from the program and activities and services of the CXC. Tonight we are happy to have with us Glenroy Cumberbatch, who is the Registrar, and Cleveland Sam, the Assistant Registrar of Public Information and Customer Services. Mr. Cumberbatch spoke a bit previously, earlier in our program, about the whole question of syllabus, both of them, both gentlemen, and you're looking now at an area of syllabus development, and the report in the meeting in Belize, the School Examinations Committee ratified the approval of the decision, I'm reading from it, to move ahead with the development of syllabuses for integrated mathematics, logistics and supply chain operations, and animation and game design.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit more.
All exciting areas.
Yeah.
Well, maybe
not
the
old
integrated
words,
mathematics.
but in different ways.
Maybe not the integrated mathematics, but all exciting. When we mentioned that to the students today, the animation and game design, some guys got very excited because that's what they want to do. And basically, as we said earlier, what we are trained to do is to ensure that students have a skill, something at the end of the study that they could utilize for their own business or to a skill that they could use in other businesses. And the animation and game design, if somebody creates a game and they can patent that game or copyright that game and sell it to somebody else, to me that is something really interesting. Or if they can develop a game industry in the Caribbean, would be a fantastic thing to do. In the computer science, you do some coding or you do some programming, but that is done to get a grade. In the animation and game design, you are now using that to produce a product that then have value beyond that. So that is very interesting. The one on logistics. Logistics is a really beautiful one too, because some countries see that as the way to go in organizing your ports better, in organizing your distribution streams better. It does a whole lot of things for persons. It is something that most people do naturally. How much better can we collect garbage if we had somebody who's trained in logistics to organize the way the truck moves, where it goes, at what time it goes, the journey it takes, cut out some of the loops and so on to make it more efficient. All of these things are good things that can happen to allow people to be better prepared and be more efficient in carrying out the functions that they carry out. A supermarket store, in terms of how you store your goods, how you get them back out of the storeroom. So it is a very exciting area of study. and it should help a lot in the efficiencies. Integrated maps is one that we do for a general course for the associate degree. A lot of people are not very happy about it because they feel that the associate degree, fewer people will now take the associate degree because they have to do integrated maps. But in order to strengthen our associate degree and give it more credibility, especially overseas, it is important that we have mathematics, some kind of Caribbean studies or general studies in it, and communication studies to strengthen that part of the general studies program. The other part is good, it is well accepted, but the general studies part needed strengthening.
Probably.
However, people who do mathematics as part of their core program, they would not have to do the integrated maths. So if you're doing pure maths or applied maths, you don't have to do integrated maths because you already show that you have the mathematics in it. Yeah.
Cleveland, the meeting of the SEC, the School Examinations Committee, also look at ratifying revisions of CAPE food and nutrition, including addition of Caribbean vocation qualification at the school-based assessment and inclusion of a unit entitled The Fundamentals of Food and Nutrition. I thought food and nutrition was, okay, good. Tell us a bit about it. And they also, additionally, they look at approval of renaming CAPE, meaning of CAPE, geometrical and mechanical engineering, drawing to building and mechanical engineering. That's a lot of words there.
So basically, SEC, the School Examinations Committee, is a technical committee. So they look at things such as syllabus development and examination administration. So what SEC was actually doing was ratifying the decisions that were made by SubSEC. Now, in order to carry out the work of the council, SEC has designated a subcommittee of that committee to meet more often during the year so that the work of the council can proceed. So that the SubSEC was the committee that approved those name changes and revision of syllabuses during the year, and SEC was basically approving those name changes. Just to go back to something the registrar said about animation and gaming, we are very excited to announce that we will be launching animation and gaming officially on the 12th of March in Jamaica. There is an exciting event there called Kingstoon. This is an animation and short film festival that takes place in Jamaica every 2 years. And this year, CXC has been invited to use the festival platform to launch animation and gaming. It will be streamed live on CXC TV, which is cxc.org/CXC TV. From, well, it's 2 o'clock Jamaican time, which is 3 o'clock Eastern Caribbean time. And as part of that launch, we will be having some real-life animation display. We'll also have some discussion in terms of the animation and gaming syllabus by an animator from Trinidad who is a panel member of that syllabus. So we are inviting the entire region to join us on the 12th of March at 3 p.m. Eastern Caribbean time, 2 p.m. Jamaican time for that event. We also want to encourage persons to join us as well online during the year for our webinars. We would have done several webinars last year, but this year we are stepping up the number of webinars we are doing.
What are the benefits of
those? The benefits of the webinars are tremendous. Last year we did a webinar in April on English for exam preparation. We had over 600 students tuning into that webinar. It was so important that the presenter did not even get to present half of what she came to present because the students started asking questions, making comments and so on, so she was providing a lot of clarification. We also did one on geography as well just before the exams, and the participation was excellent. This year we are doing a much wider variety of webinars, including exam prep, and we're going to be looking at mathematics for one of those exam preps. But we also have new examining committees, so we're going to use the webinars to conduct the training for that. The same animation and gaming syllabus. We're going to use the opportunity of our webinars to introduce the entire region to the syllabus and specifically to the students and the sixth form schools and community colleges who are interested in offering the syllabus to provide additional information on that. So there are a lot of benefits to the webinar, for the webinars. For CXC, it allows us to use a platform which the students are familiar with and some of our stakeholders to reach a wide variety of stakeholders from a central location. So rather than coming to Anguilla and St. Lucia and Jamaica and da-da-da-da, we can stay in one room in Barbados or in Jamaica or in Trinidad and reach the entire region in 1 hour through a webinar.
And to go back a bit on the food and nutrition and so on, education serves many purposes, and one of them really is to build a healthy country and have citizens who can contribute to the overall development of the country. We have in the Caribbean now a whole set of people suffering from non-communicable diseases. And we feel very strongly that food and nutrition and physical education are important elements in the drive to have a healthier Caribbean. People may not see what job they can have from it, but you can have all the jobs in the world and you're unhealthy. It doesn't make a difference. So how do we get students in particular to understand the importance of reducing their salt, reducing their sugars, being more mobile, getting involved in more game, having 60 minutes of play every day? These are the kind of things that we need to promote, and since they're not being promoted until people actually get sick, it is very important that we do it from early. And we hope that parents would join in and allow their children to do these subjects in order to promote them and to make them better, healthier citizens of Anguilla.
We are looking at, as we continue our chit-chat, at some of the areas which came out of your 47th meeting in Belize. Revised criteria for top awards. SEC noted the changes to selection criteria. One award will be given for outstanding performance of Caribbean Advanced Proficiency Exam. The award will be given for outstanding performance, creative and expressive arts subject cluster, male and female. 2 new awards now. One for most outstanding male performance, CCSLC, and the other for most outstanding female performance. What has caused this?
Well, we have new subjects, and we also want to give credit for the persons who have done those subjects. We have new Cape Performing Arts, and we have the performing arts is made up of film, actual filmmaking, music, dance, and theater, and we would like to give people credit for that, just like they were given credit for mathematics and sciences and so on. But one of the fundamental things in those changes to the criteria dealt with how do you get an award. And for a while, people have been saying you have to do 20 subjects and 30 subjects in order to get an award. So we refined the criteria to ensure that all the quality indicators come first before we go to quantity indicators. So before, we would have gone through a few and then say, okay, if you're equal at this point, then look to see how many subjects you've done. Now we are saying, if you are equal in the number of subjects you did, the 9 or 8 subjects that are required to qualify you for the award, if you're equal at that point, then look at the quality of your things. If you have all grade 1s, then look at the profiles that you have. If you still have all profiles, then look further. So we go through all the quality indicators, and once we have exhausted those quality indicators and you're still tied, we will look then at the amount of the other subjects that you've done beyond the ones that are required to grant the award.
Throughout our chit-chat tonight, we focus on a number of areas that the Caribbean Examinations Council is involved in: CPEA, CCSLC, CVQ, CSEC, CAPE, CXC, but a lot of those areas need money.
Yeah.
How's your budget? All the islands keeping up. That's the problem with the regional countries. You know, they want the services, they don't want to pay for them. But
I think CXC has been blessed. Our budget is in a very healthy position. Our countries recognize the CXC and what it does, and they have been very up to date for the most part in the provision of the contributions and in the payment of the examination fees. And those that are outstanding have worked on a schedule on which to pay, and they're keeping up to that.
The CXC, its budget relates to 3, in fact, in strategic areas. I want you to elaborate on those areas.
Oh, yeah. Strengthening our business model. Part of it is we're focusing on out-of-school populations. We're trying to ensure that we have many more people coming on. You mentioned the fall in the CSEC. So if we can broaden it to include people from the diaspora, people from out of school, those 33,000 who got no subjects, if we can get them to come back the following year to write exams. If we're looking at second chance opportunities for people who would have left school many years ago and not have written any exams. So we're trying to strengthen the workforce by certifying them, while at the same time increasing our revenues from that. Another area we're looking at is our financial stability, and we're looking at many efficient ways in trying to do that. We've become very efficient. The e-marking, those kind of things have also helped us with the efficiency. And the third thing, we're looking at making sure that we use the right people. So we're using our stakeholders a lot more to help give us good feedback. We're trying to make sure that when we are making, when we're choosing people to be employed at CXC, we choose the right people, the best people in the region, by offering some of the best salaries available, et cetera, and so on. So we're doing the best things. We're trying to do everything in our power to keep CXC relevant and keep it as the best organization for integration in the region.
Cleveland, you are the man responsible for public information and customer services. Tell us a bit about some of the upcoming events.
Right, so as I mentioned, right now we have the launch of animation and gaming in Jamaica on the 12th. In April, we'll have the visual arts exhibition, in fact, which Anguilla hosted, I think, 3 years ago. That will be hosted in St. Lucia from the 25th to the 29th of April. We are also doing a huge region-wide customer satisfaction and needs survey this year, and that should be rolled out to stakeholders in the next 4 to 8 weeks. You should be receiving questionnaires, requests for participation in focus groups. So we're encouraging our stakeholders to respond kindly to the questionnaires when they're sent. If they're asked to be part of a focus group, also to respond positively to that. And of course, we're coming back to Anguilla in August for the launch of the May-June results. From 2010, we have been launching the results of the May-June examinations in one of our participating territories, and this year we'll be doing it in Anguilla sometime during the second week of August. And that is a regional event that will be streamed live on CXC TV as well, and also broadcast live on CMC Carib Vision.
Well, we're getting to the end of our program tonight. We're going to give you a chance. We're going to start with you, Cleveland. I'm sure you'll want to say thanks to a number of persons who helped to facilitate your visit to Anguilla, and then we have the last word with the registrar.
Certainly, but let me just go back to one point you asked earlier. The regional top award for CCSLC, very important. We have regional top awards for Cape and CSEC, and we felt that it was right for us to bring CCSLC into that realm as well, so that it has the parity of esteem, such just as the other subjects. So from this year, 2016 exams, we are offering 2 regional top awards for CCSLC, Best Male, Best Female, and they will enjoy the same benefits with the exception of the scholarship that the CSEC awardees enjoy. Of course, we want to say thank you so much to the Ministry of Education in Anguilla, especially the local registrar, Colleen and her team, for hosting us, for all of the stakeholders who turned out to the meetings yesterday and today, the Minister of Education and the PS and her team, to all of the amazing students that we interacted with today, as well as the parents who came out to the meetings to make them worthwhile.
Registrar, I'll give you the last word as we close.
Yeah, and we want to thank you for hosting us and having us and get the message go wider. And the radio station that we were at yesterday, we want to thank you very much for that. These broadcasts will reach much wider stakeholders than we would have met in our tours so far. And we look forward to the continued support of Anguilla, and we are committed to assisting Anguilla in any way we can to improve the throughput of the students who move from the various stages of their education and certify them to go to the workforce.
Based on the registrar on the contributions from the region and the kind of togetherness, you see a bright future for CXC?
Yes, it is so bright you have to wear shades. We are well positioned, and as we speak to our stakeholders, they're very pleased with what CXC is doing and believe that CXC is going in the right direction. And I think that is a credit. I think CXC as an organization has the best network of people across the region. Almost every household has an input in what CXC does, and we like that, and we want to continue that. And I think one thing that CXC must continue, if it changes everything else, is to have this greater reach of persons who can assist us, who can help us, who can advise us, and who frankly can tell us when we're going wrong, so that we can put ourselves right and steady the ship. and continue the development of education in the region.
A good note to end on, Registrar of the Caribbean Examinations Council, Glenroy Cumberbatch. We also had Cleveland Sam, the Assistant Registrar of Public Information and Customer Services. This has been another edition of Facing the Issues. I want to thank our technical team and ask you to join us next week for another program.